Hello, I'm George Mayhem, the Managing Editor of Vanilla Plus, and welcome to today's webinar, the topic of which is Beyond the Network, Delivering Security Everywhere to Everyone, all of the time. Naturally, security is of concern to all of us, and in a networked world, it's vital that not only the networks are secure, but also the services that run over them. I'm delighted to be joined for this webinar by three speakers today, each of which will explore the challenges and opportunities that surround security beyond the network. We have Dr. Mark Mortensen, the Research Director at Analysys Mason, who will shortly set the scene with his introductory presentation. This will be followed by presentations from Moshe Elias, the Director of Product Marketing at Allot, and from Perrine Didrich, the Senior Manager of Global Product Marketing at McAfee. I should also point out we will be opening the floor to questions and answers from the audience. To participate, simply enter your question in the panel on screen, and I'll put it to our speakers after they conclude their presentations. Now, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Mark Mortensen. Mark, the floor is yours. Mark, we're having some problems hearing you.
Okay, let me try again.
Oh, there we are. Hello, Mark. Sorry,
hello,
I'm glad we've got you back. The floor is yours, Mark.
I had everything fall apart about 30 seconds before George started introducing me, but everything's back up now. So this is Mark Mortensen. I'm a research director here at Analysys Mason, and you may know me more from my work with on the telecom software and network side about digital experience and digital transformation, which is the focus of my research. But I will tell you that as security has become much more important in the future, we've been working a little bit more on security, and so I've taken on the role also of dealing with security issues. So I'm very delighted to be working with Allot and McAfee here on this webinar. If you step back for just a minute and look what's going on, the operators worldwide are looking for more ARPU, average revenue per user. Obviously, they can try and get prices up, but that really doesn't work very much. Competition amongst the operators is pretty fierce, and competition increasingly with the over-the-top players is even more fierce. So the way they're doing it is looking at what can they bundle together with their services, be it for a consumer market or be it for a small and enterprise market or a large enterprise market. So this is all going after large enterprise, small and medium enterprise here, consumer or small office, home office. And there's a large number of things, and I'll cover a couple of them here. But security is one of them, especially. It's been something that's looks very, very advantageous for them in the consumer and the small and medium enterprise market, as well as, of course, some of the large deals with the large enterprises. So security is really looking like a very interesting thing to do. So why bundle, by the way? You get your average revenue per user up, and if you do it well with services that make a lot of sense, you can do it without deep discounting your basic service. So you really don't have to worry too much about margin erosion if you're doing it with services that are highly desired by people and by services that they think make sense as an add-on to their existing services. So in fact, security, if you take a look, this is from a report that was done by my colleagues here, looking at a lot of these new services and some of the pursuing via CSPs in these areas. And we're seeing security is on the list, and I'll show you something in more showing that it's a focus point. It's kind of seen as a very obvious complement to connectivity. It's something also that can be sold through existing channels. You really don't have to go in and do a lot of new channel work, whereas financial services and a lot of the analytics, a lot of the advertising, even some of the video have to be done in different channels. So this fits very nice within the existing channels of communication that the operators already have with their customers. So that really makes it also, again, much more attractive. If you look at security here, we took a look at some of the major operators in the world and said, what are their stated security strategic focus? Looking at their talks to the financial community, to the investment community, their yearly reports and other things. And we found that although right now security is not number one in here, among them, it is still a very important one. And we believe that there is a tremendous growth that's available here. We find that only about 13% of the current people only 13% people right now are getting their security through their operator, but as I'll show you in a second, over 61% say that they would like to, that they feel that they're a very good place to get that. So I just said that about 61% of mobile consumers say would buy mobile security service from their service provider. And again, you can see about 13% actually do. It varies by country, but it's usually somewhere around the 10% area. Very strangely, by the way, China is a real holdout there. There was almost no security at all, endpoint security, that the people buy, which is very odd. We don't really understand that. We're trying to understand that. But what they do buy, they're buying from their operators right now, about 11% of it. We view that right now the potential market of this is about $85 billion a year. Roughly speaking, we've got about under 5 billion mobile lines, a little over 1 billion fixed lines in the world. And the revenue potential here is about $1 to €1 per line per month, be it an enterprise or a consumer customer. So we're talking something on the order of about $85 billion a year, a very, very serious market that is really just getting started. So let's talk about that then. Okay, so we said security, but what do we mean by security? Well, there's two basic types. Well, first of all, let's look on the right-hand side. We're talking about securing email, first of all, doing whatever we can to get rid of all that email that we don't want to see. We're talking about securing webs. We're talking about securing as much as possible programs also from the antivirus, messaging, and plugins also into all of these things. So we're looking for malware. We're looking for ransomware. We're looking for the things that you really don't want to have happen. There's a lot of other aspects of security also that we're not really talking about very much now. There's security of the network itself, the physical security. There is the security of the devices that are connected to the network, so people don't tap into the network. And in future, there's going to be even much more security associated with the virtualized pieces of the network. And that's kind of another part of the security story that we're not covering today. We're really covering the security here of these things that are more on the right, the things that the consumers see and the things that you can actually almost touch, if you will, if you're a consumer. So we find that there's two basic types. There's network-based solutions, and then there's solutions that come into the endpoint. And they have their pluses and minuses in here. But the network-based solutions are the ones that are somehow up in the network, up in the cloud, if you will. Then there's ones that are on the right-hand side here, the end-user device, that we're always very familiar with. You might have your smartphone, and you're going to be putting in your security software. And it's going to be monitoring everything and securing everything that is on that smartphone, every interaction with that smartphone, whether it goes through your network or goes through someone else's network. So it's a good place to do it, certainly. But it also may allow a lot of things to come at that device itself. So network-based solutions also, as we'll talk in a second, can help filter out a lot of that and cover a lot of the issues themselves. Endpoint appliances on the left-hand side here are things like termination units, are things like home security boxes or other IoT boxes that might be in the home controllers, or even a white box that is sitting on an enterprise that is going to be configured later on with software. That software itself coming down has to be free of threats and very secure. And in the future, of course, we're going to find those endpoint appliances are going to be existing much more in a virtualized environment themselves. So that's kind of networky, but it's also kind of network-based solution, but it's also cooperatively there in the virtualized endpoint device. So we're going to find things that are in between. So integrated security, which we're talking about today, is kind of a pretty cool thing. We're talking about network-based security on the left-hand side, often called security as a service, which is great. It's all hosted. There's usually a very small upfront investment from an operator, a CSP, a communication service provider. Quick vendor onboarding. You make a deal with a vendor, you get that software into your network. It's there. And here, this is really good. It's always up to date. That's something that gets updated one place there in the network or just a few places. And if there's one thing that's of course important in all of this, it's to make sure that everything is completely up to date. We're certainly aware that most exploits in the world on devices, certainly the IoT exploits that have happened recently with the ransomware over the last year, have not come from newly found vulnerabilities, but from vulnerabilities that have been known for 6 to 18 months and simply not checked, either did not have the secure software or did not have their information up to date in there. Coverage, however, is a problem, as we said, because there may be things going on in the endpoint device that are not associated with the network. So the endpoint security is very good. You get total coverage. It's something also that's recognized by the user. The user actually sees it. So there's that recognition, there's that brand recognition that can happen in the user's mind that you don't necessarily get when the network is doing it itself. And there's also an obvious monetization thing that happen. But you need all those downloads, you need all those updates, and it has to be kept up to date, which could be a problem. When you put an integrated solution together, you're basically overlapping them, if you will, and you're getting the best of both worlds. So that's kind of the overall view that I wanted to take here. I will tell you that this average revenue per user, if it's done right, you're talking about an extra $1 per month, which on an ARPU of about $36 is about a 3% increase. And we also found that in the stickiness, that you might be able to get stickiness of up to about 18% stickier offers when you bundle properly here. Going on next into kind of the benefits and what a real unified solution looks like is Moshe Elias, and I'll turn it over to Moshe now.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Hi, thank you, Mark.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to give a quick introduction on the agenda. We are going to go through the unified security product, covering some engagement and onboarding experience for the users, and we want to give you some real example case studies of how this solution has been implemented in the operators world, and then we'll wrap up with a summary. But I just want to mention to everybody to stick around for the demo that will happen after the summary. Go ahead, Moshe.
Thank you, Perrine. So basically up to now, we've gone to the same customer with a similar offering, but with very different approaches.
That's true. McAfee has focused on the endpoint and on the home gateway, while Allot's approach is really built on service delivery platform in the network.
Yeah, you could say that we've been competing for the same mindshare, but really when you analyze our offerings, they actually complement each other. Network-based security provides the operator full control of the service, and some of our existing customers have used this attribute to achieve fantastic commercial success with service penetration rates of over 50%. Still, the number one limitation of the network-based solution, as Mark also pointed out, is that we can't protect users when they aren't on the provider's mobile network, whether they're roaming or connected to a Wi-Fi network.
You were right. So the client software is really geared towards protecting threats coming from anywhere, because the threats don't wait for the device to be connected to the mobile network. We also know that by 2020, the number of Wi-Fi hotspots will rise to 454 million. So basically, we'll be able to connect on public Wi-Fi from almost everywhere. Now, public Wi-Fi is not always secure, right? Some Wi-Fi networks may not even have a password, which is like opening the door to thieves. Now, even with a password-protected Wi-Fi, you could also possibly be under a man-in-the-middle attack. This really means that you're possibly being spied on. The client software can detect such attacks and prompt the user to disconnect from the Wi-Fi or use a VPN, for example. So overall, the client software provides very deep protection where it is installed, as Mark was saying, and the network can provide automatic protection to the new subscribers without user interaction. Here I'd like to really show how uniting both our strengths from Allot and McAfee allow us to create a unified security protection based on those 4 pillars. The first one is the network component that enables operators to have a secured network. It also provides easy way to message the users and to prompt them, for example, to install the client software, which is the second component. The client has a deep protection, as I said, engaging features. Mostly malware protection is the primary feature, but that also goes beyond with privacy protection, anti-theft capabilities, productivity features, like helping users improve battery life, free up memory and storage space. The third one is the McAfee Global Threat Intelligence that provides the customers up-to-date protection. We detect more than 400,000 new threats every day. And the most important for me is the fourth pillar was the unified experience, which means that we can provide a consistent way to show value to the end users for scenarios where we're already protecting them, or even contextually to promote services and drive upsell for scenarios where the user needs additional protection. So really both approaches complement each other. It improves the user experience, and they are necessary to achieve high penetration and high upsell, to have also a comprehensive security on and off the network. Now, Moshe, wouldn't you say that unified experience is also a unified management for the operator?
Yes, Perrine. I mean, from the network, the provider gets a unified management system that helps him to manage the end-to-end security service, even though it's multi-vendor and comprised of network and endpoint security enforcement points. Let's look at what else makes our offering unique. A key metric of success for any service is its uptake rate and customer satisfaction. Our existing customers have seen immense success, like I've said before, with penetration rates in the range of 50% and high NPS scores with just a network-based service. Unified security is the only solution on the market today that delivers multi-layer security for the mass market that seamlessly protects them on and off net with a consistent experience, in addition to unified operator management, as you've pointed out before. And when you look at security value-added services as an integral component of delivering quality data services, you can see that it's clearly aligned with an operator's core business, just as delivering clean and healthy drinking water is aligned to a water utility's core business. All of this is delivered on a massively scalable platform that is personalized to the individual customer, and it's also extremely extensible. We can include additional enforcement points, such as home gateways, that give visibility into the home and enable us to deliver IoT security for smart appliances, home security systems, and the like. These capabilities are not part of this current presentation, but we would be happy to discuss them in a separate conversation or a future webinar. If anyone is interested in these areas, please feel free to reach out to us.
So for me, the key benefit of the unified security offer is that we put the customer at the center. So we can protect users from any threats, wherever they come from, on any device they use, and anywhere they go, regardless of the network they connect to. And we'll also ensure that unified policies and deconfliction. For example, if you have a user who has been alerted about a threat via the network, but still wants to proceed with the risk, you would not stop him again on the device. the user's decision is valid for the security service, not an individual component of the service. So this is really showing how integrated the partnership is, and it drives value not only to the users, but also to operators who can leverage both worlds without worrying about a bad user experience. Now, user experience is key, but how we help operators acquire customers is one of the top lines for any business owner. So at McAfee, we constantly work on improving acquisition and activation of the products, but despite innovative and automated flow, our biggest challenge is also still remains acquisition. And we'd like to do a quick poll around, to ask our operator audience here listening to us, what would be a good uptake rate for a security service in their experience?
Great, thanks, Perrine. I'll read out the question, which is on your screen, and the possible answers, and then we will find out what the result of the poll is for Perrine and Moshe to discuss. The question is, what is the uptake rate from a security service your company has offered? And the possible responses are, we have not offered a security service, we only provide regulatory compliance, less than 10%, between 10 to 20%, and finally, more than 20%. I'll just read the question and answers again. What is the uptake rate from a security service your company has offered? And the options are, we have not offered a security service, we only provide regulatory compliance, less than 10%, between 10 to 20%, and more than 20%. Now we'll get the results, and while we're waiting for those to happen, I just remind all the audience that we can ask questions to our panelists today, and I'll present those to them at the end of the presentations. Anyway, let's see what we've got. So a mixed bag, but the uptake rate looks to be more than 20% for almost half, 44.4% of respondents. So I guess that's encouraging. Perrine and Moshe, what are your observations on those results?
Yeah, I'm very happy to see a lot of more than 20%. This is very encouraging. I can also see, in some countries we really have to provide security because it's a compliance. It's really the regulation that has to you have to comply with, which is fine. But you could also combine compliance with regulations together with high adoption and high monetization. So I'm actually curious to ask Moshe now, because with the unified security, we have seen service take-up rate around 50% and even above, right? So I guess the audience would like to know how we do that. Moshe, would you like to tell us?
Yeah, of course. The simple answer is that we leverage the network-based component of the unified solution. By turning on the service is very simple. It's under the full control of the operator. And as I said before, you can activate it for large segments of the customer base simultaneously. So let's look at the steps that are needed to be taken as with any service. First of all, you need to make sure that your customers are aware that the service actually exists. In many cases, this is typically achieved by spending a lot of marketing dollars. When it's network-based, it's a totally different story. The service can be turned on for a trial period simultaneously for hundreds of thousands of customers. This is an extremely effective approach to raising awareness. By just turning it on and informing them that they are now protected, this can easily be achieved through built-in communication channels that the system has. Raising awareness this way saves big time on marketing budget, since customer awareness is built into the process. Second, you want the adoption to be as simple as possible. With network-based security, zero effort is required by the customer. They don't have to download anything, they don't have to activate a license, they don't have to configure any settings, and the operator takes care of updating the protections in the network. Third, you need to create value in the eyes of the customer in order for them to, after the trial period, to actually pay for the service. We'll cover that when we get to customer engagement, but at this point it's enough to say that you tell them how they are personally protected, in real time or periodically. This will also be demoed at the end of the webinar. And fourth, when the customer sees the value of protection on net and how many protections have been activated during a month, he'll take that extra step to download the security client in order to be secure also on Wi-Fi.
So, Moshe, you mentioned the operator can just turn on the service, right? But how does that meet the different regulations regarding opt-in, opt-out, and what we talked about?
Well, of course, we've seen better results where opt-out was possible, and in fact, we've worked with several operators to help them implement opt-out campaigns in heavily regulated markets in Europe. Where opt-in is the only option, we'll take the approach of free trial periods, or try and buy, where the customer opts into the trial. This can be easily achieved through a one-click on the offer made to the customer with the inline channel. In addition, you can also add security for every new customer. With the levels of churn that some operators are experiencing, they can touch anywhere between 10 to 30% of their customer base within a year. The two charts that we're sharing above show the results of both methods in very, very similar environments. And as you can see, opt-out yields better results faster. But opt-in starts to close the gap after the second year. From qualitative analysis that we've done, we observed that opt-in customers are also more loyal to the service for a longer period of time. We'll be sharing a report afterwards that goes into more detail about different engagement and onboarding models after the webinar. Now, Perrine, you understand the importance of the user experience and the need for creating value to end-user customers. So why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, indeed. I'm a user myself, and I tend to understand the challenges of consumers that, they don't perceive the value of security. It's a product that you really need, but not a product that you want. So by showing users how you protect them, we are able to ensure they understand the value that security brings. For example, so this icon that you see located on the top left of the web page on the first screen. This is a smart way to remind the customers that we have scanned the page before they can view it. Now, this is also configurable service that user can adapt. So you can see on the second screen, they can change some of the settings if they want to. And for me, most of all, the reporting capability is what enables the operators to remind their customers of what has been done to protect them. As you can see, the third screen shows like a periodic report about how the threats were stopped. The fourth screen also shows how you can instantly alert the customers that a threat is detected, which is useful when you land on a phishing website, for example. So, Moshe, tell us about the additional value for the operators.
Yeah, through the Unified Telco Manager, the operator can see all the events that are generated by the security service. And this can be extremely newsworthy. Some of our CSP customers leverage this information to issue PRs and write articles about the rise in ransomware and privacy concerns, specifically to their customers in their region. A recent PR that I've seen was about the threats related to cryptocurrency and how they protect their customers from these new threats. This is a lot more effective and a lot cheaper than above-the-line advertisement. Before we go into market demand and case study, I think we have another opportunity for a poll. So I would like to ask our audience. Go on, George.
Excellent. The second poll question, Moshe, is have you done any end-user research on security demand for the mass market, and would you describe them as which of the following? And the options are: they would prefer to buy from a service provider, they prefer to install an app, they use the security settings provided by the phone vendor, fourth is they don't care about security, and the fifth is we've never done any end-user research. So I'll read the question again. Have you done any end-user research on security demand for the mass market, and would you describe the mass market in which of the following terms? And the options are: they would prefer to buy from a service provider, they prefer to install an app, they use the security settings provided by the phone vendor, they don't care about security, or finally, we have never done any end-user research. Let's look at the responses. And that's encouraging as well, with 40% saying they would prefer to buy from a service provider, according to our audience. Moshe and Perrine, what do you think of these results?
These are very interesting results, and actually they just enforce what we're seeing as well. Perrine, you also did McAfee also did a research recently. What have you seen?
It's very interesting indeed. We had the same type of conclusion regarding the fact that consumers want to buy security from their CSP, and that was also mentioned by Mark earlier in the presentation. So now we really, with this recent survey, we understand what customers what consumers want, and they want security. The key learnings that I'm showing right now are 70% of the consumers express security concerns about their smartphone. And I emphasize on smartphone because, in the past, it was really mostly focused on PC and computers. Last year, the same survey showed only 61% of concern on smartphones, and this increase is even more significant in some countries like the US, for example, where the concern is now 77%. And Germany also had like a 29 percentage point increase in just a year. The 70% being global results. Now, overall, consumers are willing to pay for security, and 76% are willing to pay for an endpoint multi-device protection. And the third one, which I found the most interesting for our audience, is that 90% of the respondents agreed that they would be more loyal to their operator if they had the right offer at the right price. And those offers were, focused on endpoint protection on computers, smartphones, and also parental controls, as well as VPN. Now, this also is confirmed by McAfee's database, where we know that a McAfee customer is actually loyal for 5 entire years. Now, Mochi, would you like to? Yeah, go ahead. Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, and we also conducted a survey earlier this year, and this is also available from our website. And one of the key findings that was very interesting for us was that, on average, globally, as you can see, divided into the different territories, 61% of CSP consumers reported that they would likely buy a security service from their service provider. I think this all ties into the complexity of security, or the perceived complexity of security, and they just want to hand it over to someone else to just handle it for them. Of course, in the end, the most convincing part is the actual experience of our customers. Vodafone launched the SecureNet service in Italy, and have gone live in almost all their operations. Vodafone Spain is a fantastic example. They launched early 2016 and went up to about 4 million customers in the first year, according to an article they published in the Spanish media. In that same article, they also promoted the service, of course, and gave examples of how much ransomware they blocked, saving their customers the pain of either paying or losing their personal information. This is a fantastic case study which just provides the credibility of what we're saying during this webinar. So I'd just like to summarize regarding the solution. McAfee Unified Security, powered by Allot. It's a long name, I know. We provide the best of both worlds. But it's a fully integrated multi-layer security solution designed for the mass market from the ground up that protects end-user customers on and off net while delivering a seamless customer experience. It's a truly unique proposition in the marketplace. It's based on industry-leading security technologies and incorporates the necessary tools to create customer awareness, achieve rapid onboarding and high penetration rates, and of course, high levels of customer satisfaction. As a result, we give value to the end users by protecting what they care about most on their devices, their personal information, and the device itself. We enable a strong value-added service that strengthens the operator's brand, creates loyalty, and helps increase revenue for the operators through a combination of both increased ARPU and a longer subscriber lifetime. So instead of considering either a client-based or a network-based approach, why not benefit from both worlds better together?
Thank you so much, Moshe. I think that we can conclude that the unified security is actually available today. So we're currently engaged with several mobile operators, and we're looking forward to working with more. So please reach out to your McAfee or your Allot account managers to set up a deeper dive or answer some technical questions. And also at the end, you will receive an email with the offline recording of this session with links to download some materials like a white paper and mobile security trend reports. So please also stay for a couple more minutes. We would like to introduce you to Angel, who is the Allot product manager for the unified security, and he will show you a short demo. Angel, this is you.
Okay, let's just move forward. Hi, and welcome to the McAfee Unified Security powered by Allot demo. You see on the screen right now is a device connected to an ISP, which we will call Comet during the demo, and how the end user is accessing his favorite news site, CNN.com. No security features for the time being, just access. But today is a very special day for this ISP called Comet. They are launching a new security service, and they need to promote it in their users. And the ways to do it, we will illustrate just one of them. So let's say this user is trying to access his favorite university, Oxford, and then goes to Google, looks for it, and clicks on the website. By making use of the capabilities of unified security, Comet can redirect with this request and send the user to a landing page where they can report and inform the user about service capabilities and so on, and offer them even the possibility to subscribe to the service. So when the user subscribes to it, on top of getting this congratulations landing page to confirm the subscription, the user is provisioning the system very easily, as you saw, so it's transparent to him. And now when he goes to Oxford, again, his traffic is completely protected and inspected for traffic. One of the ways to prove that is by inserting an icon, which is fully configurable by this operator, by Comet. As you can see, the icon is already inserted in the traffic. And this icon has several different goals. First of all, brand awareness. So my traffic is being protected. But when the user clicks on it, the icon drops down, and he can get additional information. It can be used to promote the endpoint client installation as well to achieve higher penetration radius, and this is the access to the user interface. But the user is protected from day one. In this case, he gets a default profile to block gambling, as an example. So when he tries to access an online casino, he is blocked, and he will get this blocking page just to report that information to him. We selected gambling. Comet, in this case, can select wherever they want to be the default profile, as this is very much configurable. But it's not only about content, the traffic is well protected against malware. We'll use iCar in this example. As you know, iCar provides samples for malware. So we'll try to download one of the files provided by iCar, iCar.com. We'll try to download in this case. Traffic is being inspected, and therefore the network component will read the traffic for this user, will determine that this file is infected, and we will show a blocking page to the end user informing that there is some threat in his traffic. We can even offer the option to continue. But let's go back to any other site, ntv.com as an example. As you can see, the icon is inserted again, and it's inserted not only on main domains, but it's inserted as well in any subdomain. We click on each one of them, and the icon is still there. So it's a continuous communication with the end customer and showing the customer that he's protected. As we mentioned before, the icon can be used to access the management interface. So let's click on it, and with a single sign-on, so no need to remember any password or anything, we get access to the management interface, which consolidates information both from the network and the client into a single management interface. One of the most important things in this interface is the reporting functionality. So one of the values that the end user perceives is not only the protection, but as well to get information on what he's been protected from. In this case, as we're seeing, he is shown how he's been protected from malware downloads. Now we're showing a report on parental control or content filtering with many different options. So he can get information on what were the most frequently blocked categories or many other different reports. But the beauty of the solution is that this information is something that the end user can retrieve directly for himself, or the system can push to him proactively. So the end user can get information on a regular basis, let's say monthly or weekly, wherever Comet decides, to prove the value of the service. And this is a tremendous advantage of the service. In terms of configuration, if you click on Manage My Service, the end user will be able, in this dashboard, initially to see what is the overall configuration of this security and whether he's fully protected or not. In this case, all features active, so he is. But he can not only activate all the activated features, but he can as well additionally configure some parameters and granularity, as in content filtering, different categories. Gambling is what we saw it was blocked in the beginning. But we can go further into that and say that, let's say that we want to block a URL and we block ntv.com, which we accessed before. As easy as typing ntv.com, selecting ntv.com to be added to the blacklist, click on that, and immediately the network component will start blocking for that particular URL. And we'll see that in a second. How if we type ntv.com in the browser, we will get the blocking page, and the user will be informed that he's not allowed to access that content because it's been added to that blacklist in this case. So as you can see, with the McAfee Unified Security powered by Allot, we have a tool which provides a very easy onboarding for the end user. So very smoothly and transparently, the user can subscribe to the service and immediately benefit from network security, which provides the mechanisms to as well promote the endpoint client installation from our partners McAfee. So the endpoint installation rate is as well grow up. And it provides as well a unified management interface which consolidates the information from the network, from the client, and allows the end user to configure the service with enough granularity so he feels it's a service completely built for himself. And that is it for this very quick demo on the main capabilities of the service, and back to you guys.
Great, thank you very much. That was excellent and a nice way to finish our presentations. We've had some questions in from the audience, so I will now start to address those. The first question is addressed to Mark Mortensen from Analysys Mason, and the question is, Mark, you said that bundling can increase stickiness. Do you have any real-world numbers of how much the increase in stickiness might be?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. First of all, it's a tricky thing because if you bundle something that's not very good, obviously you decrease the customer NPS and satisfaction, and in fact hurts. But if you're bundling a good service, one that assumes to make sense, and usually it's bundled of 3 or 4 things. Those 3 or 4 things, and security can be one of those 3 or 4, has been shown in the telecom market to increase the stickiness by about 18 to 20%. That's pretty good. In other subscription areas, by the way, in retail, it's about 25 to 30%. So we get a little bit less in telecom, but that probably shows that as we get better also at doing this, that we might be able to get up even into the 25% range of decreasing churn, and that's a very, very significant number.
Sure, great. Thank you, Mark. And while I have you, Mark, there's one more question that's come in. It says, you discussed securing the endpoint devices from outside influence, but how about ensuring that the device itself is authorized to even be on the network? Is that an issue?
Yeah, it is an issue, but it's kind of outside of what we're talking about today, but it's really becoming a tremendous issue as time goes on. And what we're seeing is that there are new techniques that are being employed by a lot of vendors here to ensure that using basically public key encryption methodologies here to actually only allow a device to start working on the network when it meets the PKI needs. And this is going to become very, very important, especially as we have these how many millions of billions of connected devices there. It's one thing to make sure that they're working well afterwards, but it's another thing to make sure that they actually even should be there to begin with. And of course, the problem is going to get even more interesting when some of these devices become virtualized. Any case, it's outside of our discussion here, but a very important aspect and probably something we'll be talking about in the future.
Great. Thanks very much, Mark. Got a couple more questions coming in. I guess these are probably more for Moshe and Perrine. One question is more than one security enforcement point more secure?
Oh, that's a good question. The answer is yes. If you take a look at best practices, I'm assuming at your own enterprise, wherever you work, you have network-based security that's managed by the IT team, and you probably have some kind of security on your laptop or PC. The same principle also applies for the mass market. One of them would be in the network, up to date. It will have some limitations that could be complemented by the endpoint security, and vice versa. For instance, when we look at iOS, there are some limitations that the operating system doesn't allow antivirus inspection that can only be done in the network. And as we said before, the coverage of what the network provides when you're off-net can only be provided by the client software. So it's not only on-net and off-net. Both solutions actually complement each other from a security perspective as well.
And I would add to that you know, on the network, obviously, you know, the network security component really protects you from most of the threats. But when you're not on that network, you're on the Wi-Fi, again, a public Wi-Fi off of your network, or even when you're transferring data from other sources like the Bluetooth or even a USB stick, or you're just completely off network, then that's where the endpoint will protect you and will also be able to clean the malware that may already be on your device. And then it expands that to other features like the anti-theft and the productivity features that we can allow on the endpoint side. So really, this is a necessity now. You cannot always be on your carrier network all the time, and you also need some additional value-added services to really promote benefits. And I would say that the network is a perfect seamless onboarding for the customers. Get deep into your customers' user base with high penetration, about 50%, and then be able to message the user to say, hey, by the way, if you are roaming or off the network, like, by the way, you can still get protected. So that's a perfect onboarding towards educating customers about what we do to protect them, but what needs to be done with endpoint to continue protecting them off the network.
Sure. Thank you, Perrine. And we have one final question that I think is all we'll have time for. The question is, how is the family defined or set up for parental control? I guess, Perrine, that's probably one for you as well.
I would say probably the network piece has parental controls, Moshe, right? I mean, both have, but do you want to answer that one, Moshe?
I'll answer that. Yeah, there are a few ways that this could be set up. The easiest way, of course, is to align them through the customer resource manager. So you probably have customers who have family bundles or family data plans, and these numbers could be pre-populated into the management interface so that you know, the parent, the owner of the credit card who's paying the bill in the end, has the full control of the content that he allows his children to see. He has full control of the time they spend online. He can actually decide to close the data access or the internet access when they're sitting down for dinner, or when it's late at night and they need to be asleep, or when they need to do the homework. There are many things that can be done through this system. Another option would be, of course, for a parent to install the numbers himself, but that would need, of course, some kind of authentication on the child's phone that he would need to approve as well, so that we don't get any monkey business of people trying to control other people's phones. But this is a very simple method of setting this up.
Yeah, and you really can also expand that first level of parental controls with endpoints, right? McAfee is also offering some Safe Family type of product, which you do have to install on the kids' devices, but that will extend the rules that you apply for your kid across all the devices. So, for example, if you come back into the house and you're on the Wi-Fi and you're not on the carrier's network anymore, then those rules that you have defined for a kid will still apply, whatever the network he's connecting to. So it's, again, I would say network is a perfect way to onboard very easily with some set of features, and then to expand that feature set and those benefits throughout all the networks that you could connect to and on every device and on a per user level.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, Moshe, did you have something to add?
No, we're complementing the security and the parental control on an off-net. That's the reason for this whole solution, to provide the extended security with a seamless experience, both on and off-net.
Excellent. Great. Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time, but it's certainly been very interesting, and it looks like a great opportunity for operators to do more in terms of what they offer relating to security. And it looks encouragingly from our polls today that the appetite is there among users to take these services from telecoms operators. So I think that's probably the very encouraging takeaway. Thank you all for participating today, and thank you for the audience for sparing the time to listen today. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank our panelists, Dr. Mark Mortensen from Analysys Mason, Moshe Elias from Allot, and Perrine Didrich from McAfee. Thanks very much for joining us today. I've certainly found it informative and entertaining, so thanks very much. I'm George Maylam, the managing editor of Vanilla Plus. Thanks again, and goodbye.
Thank you all.